Welcome to the podcast. If you're coming in, this is going to be part 2 of a roundtable we started last week. So if you missed that one, go back and watch part 1. So this is John Lanier, Tim Behmigian, and Tim Pagett, and we're getting together to talk about how we can serve companies in the middle market that are trying to grow and exit. Lots of really great discussion here, and lots of things we got to put on t-shirts and hats. So let's jump right in. It's got some really good stuff. To maybe transition to a different kind of question, because I think about, one of the main reasons why you should have your ears open to what the new people have to say is that the market and conditions and technology and all these things are constantly changing. And so what didn't work 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, there might be now a new idea that's happening that could be, worth listening to. And so one of the big questions I wanted to have you guys talk about a little bit here is that we're working a lot with private equity owned companies, or as Tim says, those who want to be. And as I think about like what's changed, like what's different about the market today with kind of elevated rates for the last little period of time. And what comes to mind for me is I think that means probably something like maybe you're looking for a shorter hold period. You're looking for maybe more of an operational impact as opposed to kind of engineering some things. And interestingly, I saw something that came out yesterday to date us here. MIT put out a study that said some huge percentage of AI initiatives were failing to return anything on their investment. And one of the things that they came across was this idea that a lot of the people jumped to sales and marketing initiatives, and the ones that were really working were the operational initiatives. And that's what we do. So I'm, oh, great. MIT is behind what we're doing. And so, so when I think about, what we're trying to make an impact on is if understanding, or maybe this is my assumption, that you may be there's a little more pressure, a little more time pressure, that, really looking at optimizing how things move through the company is kind of an area that we can make an impact on. I'm curious if you guys have a take on that higher rate environment and how you've changed or not the things that you do and you talk about with your clients.
I'll be glad to jump in real quick. Like at the very high level, the competition for deals, the amount of money that's in the hands of investors in dry powder has upped the ante dramatically. And PE firms, one of the big words is value creation. You can no longer use financial engineering to consistently win, to be a high performer on a consistent basis. So it makes this a really important topic. And I'm actually going to go maybe a little bit sideways on this, in this sense that some of the new ideas, the new tools, new systems, automation, so many companies are simply not ready for them yet. Like the other end of the spectrum, what we see all the time are workarounds. How often do you go into a company and they've got this big, beautiful, NetSuite or SAP, but then they've got, 87 different Excel spreadsheets throughout the company. And the one that I saw that was just super dramatic was one time talking to a gentleman. Actually, a client did this. It was talking to a guy who worked at a auto parts, one of the branches of an auto parts distributor. And he goes, "Hey, I'm your new CEO. How can I help?" And the guy said, "I'd like walkie talkies." It's like, what the hell do you need a walkie talkie for? I didn't expect that. He goes, "Well, when a customer comes in, they walk up to the counter and they tell me what they want. I look it up in the system. And if we have the part in stock, if I have a walkie-talkie, instead of walking it back to see if it's actually there, I can use the walkie-talkie and say, 'Hey, Joe, is this there?'" Right? And I know that example is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Systems that don't have an accurate inventory are common, but those people did exactly what they should do, right? They're all about serving the customer with what they have. The system wasn't working. They did a workaround. But I heard this definition of a workaround that smacked me in the face just last week, which is a workaround is addressing an issue without solving the problem. It's going to keep happening over and over and over again. And what I have found is the opportunity for a company to make dramatic progress, improvements in profitability, throughput, quality, consistency, employee engagement are available by let's just start by, eliminating the workarounds. How do we start making, we want 80% of what goes through our company to go through a process without manual intervention. The opportunity there is so dramatic. And here's the last piece before I take way too long, is that process prepares you for automation, prepares you for a system, partially because if you go from crawling to sprinting, it's not going to work well. And if you've got a team that's not used to processes, not used to habits, not used, like you use the example, 5 different people entered an order a different way. You've got to solve that from a muscle memory perspective, that people we are used to a stable foundation where we have a standard approach, a process, and any change is evaluated, not just done individually.
I feel like I want to put that new definition of workaround on a T-shirt. That seems like that's
a great idea.
It's funny
I'll
because
go in on it with you.
Right. One of the things that I feel like we've encountered a number of times is that one of the problems is people kind of further down the chain aren't really empowered to solve the problem sometimes. And so they're left with the tools that they can, they've got an Excel, they've got it, like, I think I can make this work. And but walkie talkies would make this better because they're not thinking as a system. They're thinking like, I just need to solve this acute problem. And so like digging in to like really like do system thinking, solving on that is could be really powerful. John, I saw you nod in your head. What were you thinking about during that conversation?
A lot.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the original question, and Tim's got to weigh in on it. The other Tim's got to weigh in on this because he's a very seasoned human being. It is sort of like sitting in front of Moses when he starts talking. So, I got into this business when financial engineering was petering out. There had to be a plan B, but when the stewards of the funds are mostly MBAs from Ivy League schools, there might not be a whole lot of operators in the mix. So this value creation through operations could literally be something insufficiently familiar. And then you saw something evolve that's tantamount to the operating partner model. And I had a front row seat on that. But the interest rate piece to me is a little funny. I told you I had some mileage on my odometer. When I entered the job market, prime peaked at 21. You know what everybody had in common? They had the 21% base rate too. So it's not like the interest expense is unique. What is unique is how much we choose to lever something in a leverage buyout, because the EBITDA has to be real, and you can only use so many turns on that EBITDA for the debt piece of the capital structure. So what do? I've seen people migrate toward industry specialty as opposed to being a generalist, because the only way you can really make wiser investments is do wiser homework. And that's rooted in diligence. And there's some things in diligence that I've seen evolve as well. For example, Tim, I think, got into the business from PE predominantly from a post-close perspective, yet his toolbox, like mine and like Tim's, the other Tim, can be utilized to help people to get ready to sell. So one of the most valuable things Tim offers the market right now, this is a biased opinion, but he does operational diligence. And why? He finds the capacity that nobody knew was there. And from the buyer's perspective, it effectively dilutes the purchase multiple, because you didn't have to invest in any new facilities just yet, because you could build a few more in the same footprint. Same thing for Tim. In that very few, and I mean this sincerely, very few people in the lower middle market understand that marketing and sales are not synonyms, and that one is strategic, the other's tactical, and like they need each other like two hands need each other in order to clap. But these things tend not to be there. The salespeople tend not to be trained, which is really, really easily fixed. But if you don't train salespeople, you're giving away margin because everything gravitates to price. And that's the last thing we ought to talk about. We ought to talk about value, timeliness, quality, service to establish value and show that we can reduce our customers' cost without raising or lowering our price. Let me repeat that because I did some word salad there. We can reduce our customers' cost without reducing our price. Okay. So as we go about this, there are the things we should diligence better. And it's people, process, and the feed mechanism, the marketing and sales mechanism. And post-close, when you start pulling this together, I would argue a lot of people talk about efficiency. I think it's the wrong metric. I honestly do. It's productivity. It is how much value you create per unit of expense. And in order to fine tune that, you get the process right. Well, hello, Tim, again, TVM, Tim. How do I feed it better and with the right stuff? Okay, Tim Pagett. And when I get all this stuff articulated in a really good process, quote, the right process, the force multiplier is always technology. In terms of automating things that are redundant and labor shouldn't have to do it. In terms of management information, so we can make quick, informed decisions. And I see this need. It's not completely addressed yet, but I see us improving on diligence. But once you own it, if you didn't find it in diligence, you'll find it after you own it. And it will tend to map to these same four things. It's, okay, are we prioritized on the right things? Are we feeding it the right way? Are we digesting it the right way? And do we have our talent set up to succeed? So these themes, I wouldn't argue, are original, but they manifest, they morph, they mutate. And there's always going to be something new. And we alluded to this earlier in that we know AI is going to be here to stay. We are learning how to use it most effectively. And I am trying to do this myself. I want people to know I'm trying to eat my own cooking here as I preach. But what I'm seeing thus far for my applications is variation. And what I mean by that is I'm sort of testing stuff, and I use 4 platforms fairly regularly, and I give them the same question. And you'd think you were at a UN debate because the responses are as various as the languages spoken from the podium. And until that's rectified, and I'm sure there's some people who have some answers for that, but for novel users who want to try to figure out how to do this, that type of variation's got to go away. It has everything to do with user acceptance. I gave you probably about 4 chapters in a book right there.
No, I love it. We're in the middle of reading it. I love it. Well, so if anything, I'll tell you 2 things I want to pull out of that. It was really good. The first one is I feel like where often our group can step in and help is that, to your point, these new AI tools are really easy to get started with, right? Like you can walk up to a piano and start hitting a note and it plays a note, but then all of a sudden they throw down a, Beethoven in front of you. Like, I don't know, what am I doing here? And so I think that's where like kind of put, stuffing the genie back in the bottle and making sure that it's a little more predictable. And, then we get into scale and security and all the things that happen when software gets big. That's where we come in. But I want to underline, please, everyone, please do go out there and experiment and try things. Cause I think it's funny. I ran into, I want to say in the last month, I've talked to 5 CEOs who have had this directive to their teams. And it was, go find me 1 AI use case a week, right? And I had one that said, I want 3 a week.
Yep.
And so you get your team out there, your troops out there looking for things, experimenting with things. And then maybe once you get one that sort of sticks a little bit, that's where maybe a group like ours or someone would come in to codify it and scale it and make it work, in an enterprise. But I think playing is part of the new game. But there is something I want to like triple underline that you said or implied, which is that, the technology is a force multiplier. And I want to, again, quadruple underline only after you fix the process, because I can tell you it will make it significantly worse and messy and disastrous if you just throw a technology at a previously broken ad hoc workaround process, because then all of a sudden whatever it was that you just barely kept under a boil is now the pot's gonna fly off. So I feel like that's a mistake I've seen people make a lot, that oh, we're growing, it's time, let's get all these tools in, let's get a new ERP, let's do this, and that always 100% of the time makes it worse. So that's I want to underline some of those things you made. I added chapter 5 and 6 for you.
May I interject something that really maps and gives you a fifth underline there, or sixth, as the case may be? It's one of the reasons I said I focus on productivity, not efficiency. You can make a bad process more efficient, and it be efficient right through bankruptcy. But if you, we call that, the term I learned at GE was paving the cow path. and I would rather pave a freeway.
Dividers.
So how do we get the process right? And I think we're aligned on this. We have our various versions of what that means, but it's the process and then the force multiplier. And it has a lot of utility you can make the right process efficient, but that's my definition of productivity.
That's a great line. Tim Pagett, do you have chapter 7, 8, 9 for us to add on to that?
Well, I mentioned that half of our clients are looking to probably sell at some point, or at least increase, the size of their company and the profit that they're making. But the ones who do want to sell, when they're setting it up to take it to market, oftentimes they're, in my opinion, not working as hard on their marketing and sales even. But let's just talk marketing because that's my area. There is good marketing, and then there's kind of run-of-the-mill marketing. And that starts with the brand, and it goes all the way through the processes. I was lucky enough at one point in my career to help to design processes in environments. And we brought that to the Pepper Group without worrying about if it's going to ruin our creativity or not. But here's the thing with marketing, there's two parts to it. There's the creativity, and then there's the discipline. And I would think that if I was a private equity firm and looking at a company, I want to reduce my risk, right? In a lot of different ways. Now, I might also see opportunities to improve it where the current owners don't have it in place. But if you can show that private equity firm that you have a process with your digital marketing, you have a way to go to trade shows that is pre-show, during show, after show, you're covering your bases so that you're not losing any of these quality leads. You have a dashboard you can show them where it says, we're bringing this stuff to the table on a daily basis. We're not some guys who are going out and writing things on napkins and taking a brochure with us. So, I think when money is more expensive, you want to eliminate more risk when you're buying a company. So why not set yourself up to have a great story to tell in doing that?
That's really great. I wonder if we've got enough time for one more lightning round on a hot topic I've heard a lot about in the last few weeks here. One of the things we've written a bit here about at Caxi is this idea that I think there's something like almost 3 million boomer workers retiring in the manufacturing space by 2030, I think is the number. And whatever percentage it is, there aren't a lot of people filling that back in. I think I've heard about for every 5 that retire, about 2 are coming back in the workplace. And so I'm curious for what you're seeing with your clients. I mean, if it's a portfolio company and they're saying like, well, I'm out in so many years, maybe that's someone else's problem, but maybe it's not, because we want to set them up to succeed. I'm curious like how real that is for what you guys are seeing, and what you think. What's your advice for that, and what are you seeing your clients do that's effective about it?
Who do
you want to start?
What's that?
Who do you want to start?
Oh,
Tim took the bite. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to take the
go.
bite. Because it plays off of John talking about productivity and the velocity topic I brought up earlier, that the first place to go is to truly understand what your capability is to produce with existing labor, with existing equipment. When I brought up that salmon processor, what we found, it was about a 70% increase in throughput per labor hour. Okay, so you start there with, we could reduce our headcount dramatically, or we can almost double sales without adding any people. If we're worried about, attrition or a 20% increase in wage rates, first understand your effective utilization of your labor and your equipment, whether it's a manufacturing, distribution, or a service company. It's all relevant. That's the first place that I would go, is to start there, because it's already there. It's there for you to take. That's one. The second piece is, and this is just as important, is reliance on tribal knowledge is one of the most pervasive risks that we find when we look at a potential acquisition for a private equity firm. And we call it a risk because it is a risk. If you don't pay attention to it, it will be very difficult. It will put a negative margin compression at the very least, and it could shut you down at the worst. And I've seen both examples happen. But here's the good news. It doesn't cost, you don't need to put in a new system or, do something crazy. But when you document standard work and all that goes with it, you don't document what you do today. You review the process. As part of that recognition, we talking to a company just this last year, how long does it take to bring on a new operations person? And they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's 3 months to get them so that they can be left alone. It's 6 months before they're effective. And I'm like, BS. And it's on the job training, they're relying on, those kind of tools. If you have a focused onboarding process approach, if you have looked at your operation, simplified it, put in standard work, what can you get it down to 2 weeks instead? In case you do have the turnover, what happens if you have to replace a 50-year person with a brand new newbie?
That's really good. John, you had an idea and you guys were fighting for it. So what was your idea?
We are not capitalizing enough on Tim's wisdom, the other Tim, and I want to back clean up on this one. So, Mr. Pagett,
TP,
impress me, sir.
Well, I guess, when we're talking about our talent marketing side of the business, this is where companies need to understand how to communicate to people who are earlier in their careers, but also people who are in that midsection. I look at even within our own company, we have people who've been with us for 25 years. And I will hate to lose them when the time comes, but we will. But they're doing a good job of helping people to realize how things work, why the reason behind how things work. I think that there will be some things from AI that are really going to make our lives so much easier in our business, especially when you do research a lot. Research has been really very interesting to see how we can move that along quickly. Baby boomers moving out, I think it's really actually a good thing. And I think that being my age, I'm looking at things that are going so fast right now. And I'm amazed. We had a quarterly meeting just recently, and we put we divided everyone into two teams, regardless of what their job role is. We just counted off 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We put them, the assignment was create a headline for the homepage of one of our clients for their website. And it's got to be something that, merits being on the homepage as the big statement for the company. One team could use AI, one team couldn't. They had a whiteboard. You had 10 minutes. Now, normally we wouldn't just do this in 10 minutes, but it was a quarterly meeting and we were having fun in an exercise. It was phenomenal to watch what happened. The AI team spent about the first 5 minutes making sure their prompts were correct and feeding information into AI. ChatGPT is what they were using at the time. The other team, I wandered over there, and they're throwing things up on the board. They're excited. There are big smiles in the room. All right, so both teams came out to the main room again, and we had them give their best 3 ideas. And the AI team had some really good stuff. I mean, it was professional. It was hitting the mark. A little too long, though, because AI wanted to help them say too many things. The non-AI team came up with things that had a lot of wordplay, which AI might not do. They were coming up with things that were a lot shorter because they know that's what works. And so it was interesting in that way. We can use both to combine the best of both. But I think that with young people, they completely amaze me. The things they said they had been doing for our clients lately is just nobody my age would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
We just didn't have the tools or the energy to bring to the table to do some of the things they're doing.
That's amazing. So I'm going to quote someone that you didn't see coming that backs up your idea here, and it's Ben Affleck. So Ben Affleck was on stage recently, and he was talking about why he thought AI would never take over in some creative industries. And his idea is because AI doesn't know when to stop. And to your point, the idea of editing a carefully crafted line, I know we've been around marketers and that in my career. I remember someone saying, you got to be able to read a billboard like it's a business card. Like, it'll give me like 4 or 5 words, not 100, right? And but so I thought that was an interesting take. So totally backed up. I'm going to try that experiment, by the way, with our coders. I'm going to do a AI assisted and I'll get back to you on the results of that. My take on this labor thing is that I feel like the complexion of a lot of the companies that we work with will be different in 10 years because of it, because technology, AI, changing workforce. So whatever your mix is now, it'll just be different in the future. And my hope is what AI can help get rid of is you ever have those conversations where you're like, I can't believe we used to do that, whatever that was. Like in 50 years, people are going to say, wait, you drove yourself to work? That's so crazy. And like, I've had times in my life when I spent 3 hours a day commuting, right? And we all maybe have. And so my hope is that we create a world where that's different and better. But Tim, you said something that reminded me of a conversation I had recently with someone that was sometimes like that can I get things done differently, more efficiently is a mindset. And I have a friend who's in the supply chain, and he was talking to someone with one of the Chinese car manufacturers, and they were talking about some technology thing. I said, so how often do you guys change your drivetrain, out, and he goes, oh, long time. And so in his head, he's thinking, you think of a number right now for yourself. And then he goes, long time, 3 months. And my head exploded. Like 3 months? What? And then he goes, well, how often do you change like your battery design? I'm like, well, that's pretty long too. We got to work on that. Well, how long was that? I mean, kind of like 30 days. And again, your head explodes, right? Because those for me those are multi-year somethings, right? And so sometimes a lot of what's possible is a mindset about how long it really takes. And so, experimenting with like Tim, let's see what happens in 10 minutes. Like, it's never a situation you really want your brand people to do, but like, let's see what happens. Is it, and I think for the human people, it's like, yeah, it's 10 minutes for the tagline, and it's 20 years of experience to get there, kind of thing. But, still, like, I think that for me, it's the complexion of what happens in the future is just going to be different based on, new technologies, new kinds of people with the mixes, etc. But, so I don't know, that's half a chapter each there for all those, but. Well, gents, this has been really great. I hesitate to say this is something we should do again, because that was really interesting. I think we got about 6 T-shirts out of it and 12 chapters, and I knew we'd go the hour, so I appreciate you guys.
What?
This is really
You don't
interesting.
want the final chapter?
How about this, John? How about what is the final chapter? You got a button for us on this?
As I was listening to you, it reminded me of something Jobs did in one of his famous product launches, and it was think different. Drove the English majors nuts because they were looking for an adverb, but he was trying to promote a concept. And that's what we're talking about here. Your numbers are very real. It's manifest in the workforce. And you may recall Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs, and he's got this foundation that he's working on now, trying to get the trades repopulated. And if I remember correctly, he said for every 5 retiring, there are only 2 coming in.
Yeah. And
he was talking to somebody else that was doing some labor calculations. He said, where your entry level laborer is to get caught up. And I forget who told him this, but they're in the 7th grade. So the point being, it's going to take a while to recover from stupid policy. And as we look at the retiring baby boomers, and they are numerous, that's good news for investors, and it's sort of bad news because a material portion of them are not ready to sell. And of the people I talk to, and I know all of us on here talk to these people who are thinking about it or should be, and a lot of them are lamenting to me in confidence that I wish somebody had told me that I had to do this 3 to 5 years ago. Okay. All right. So now we have the oak tree. The best time to have planted it was 25 years ago. Next best time is right now.
Yeah.
So what do we do? And I think you'll find that there's a simple model, and it's like a Robert Earl King kind of song. The road goes on forever and the party never ends. It's the same stuff, but what phase? And for me, those things include the following: awareness of how you fit in your target market, the priorities for being better, and they tend to straddle the buckets we've talked about earlier. Where's the growth coming from? How do I keep up with it? And where's the talent? And you don't have to solve everything before you're ready to sell, but you need to demonstrate, and especially if you think you're going to give the keys to the new owner the moment the wire changes hands, you have to prove the place can run without you. And about the 95+% chance is it cannot. So how do you get there? And then their vendors like us can help them get there, but they have to understand the burning platform for what they say they want to accomplish. And then one of the retorts that comes out of that when I frame that is, we got to do all of that before we sell it. I said, no. I said, you do have to demonstrate the discipline of execution with results. And if you get to about year 3 on a 5-year plan and you can prove how well your team did it with your delegation and empowerment, you might be sellable. Then call your banker. And you might also have a lot of the investment thesis priorities already documented to be discovered with the audit trail of diligence. And it's a winning model. And I got to share this. This is worth hearing for your audience. the message resonates. There's a disappointment with crap. I thought I'd get out next week. With you're talking about years. Yeah. So why would I do that? I said, well, look at it this way. Would you like to sell it for peanuts or sell it as a prize? And the more you invest in what drives your enterprise value, the more you'll be rewarded with an exit multiple. So you can retire maybe comfortably, but how would you like to own your own island? And it helps them get over the hump for the longer play. So as we, I need to thank you for hosting this. I want to thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I love these conversations. And I love this stuff. I hope your audience got a lot out of it, because there's, my gosh, if you take the four of us with at least 30 years, you've got 120 years of experience. Is probably closer to 150 that we learned a few things that might be worth knowing. And all of us are motivated to share and help people create value. But these themes are not that wild and woolly. Most of it's practical. And the stuff that gets technical, that's when you ask for fractional resources to help you get there faster. It's a good investment. You don't have to reinvent wheels. A lot of us know how to change tires on moving vehicles. And we act like pit crews. We don't want to drive, but we'll help you get back on the track faster and stay longer and win the race. That's it for me. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
John, that is an amazing button. I'm really serious. I think we might have 9 T-shirts out of this one. We're gonna those will be for sale on the podcast website eventually. That's really good stuff, guys. It was such a pleasure. Thanks for being with me today, and definitely really would love to do it again. This was fun.
Thank you, Mike.
This was a ball.
Thanks for listening to the Digital Transformist. This is Mike LaVista, and if you like that content, subscribe so you can get notified of new content when it comes out.